Program music or instrumental music is associated with a story, poem, idea, or scene. Tchaikovsky, Smetana, and Berlioz were some famous composers for program music. Sound effects were used a lot in program music, which is a continuous flow of rapid notes, for example, like a running stream or the rise and fall of waves. And the forms were rondo, fugue, sonata form, or theme and variations. The main forms of program music in the Romantic period were a program symphony, a concert overture, symphonic poem or tone poem, and the last one is incidental music. Hector Berlioz was one of the first French Romantic composers and a daring creator of new orchestral sounds. He was born near Grenoble, and he went to Paris to study medicine because his dad sent him there. When he was 23, he fell in love with the works of Shakespeare, and he also fell madly in love with Harriet Smithson, but unfortunately it did not work out, and she left Paris without ever meeting Berlioz. In 1830, Hector Berlioz wrote the Fantastic Symphony. Berlioz was one of the most brilliant and witty music critics who ever lived, and he was also one of the first great orchestral conductors who he influenced a whole generation of musicians. Berlioz's music was passionate expressiveness. His music was very unique. It was a contrast between high woodwinds and low strings. Nationalism in 19th century music was for new enthusiasm for folk songs, dances, legends, and fairy tales. The Russian Five were 5 young men who met together in St. Petersburg with the aim of creating a truly Russian music. These members were Miley Balakirev, Caesar Koo, Alexander Borodin, Modest Mussorgsky, and Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov. Peter Tchaikovsky was the most famous Russian composer, and at the late age of 21, he started studying music theory. At the age of 30, he composed his first great orchestra, Romeo and Juliet. Tchaikovsky's music style contains elements of French, Italian, and German music. He fused national and international elements to produce intensely subjective and passionate music. Some of his works were the overture fantasy Romeo and Juliet, his music for ballet, which included Swan Lake, Sleeping Beauty, and The Nutcracker. Bedřich Smetana was the founder of Czech national music, and his works were folk songs, dances, legends of his native Bohemia. In 1856, he taught, conducted, and composed symphonic poems in the style of Franz Liszt in Sweden. The Bartered Bride was one of his most famous operas based on Bohemian legend and folk material. At age 50, he became completely deaf. He died in an insane asylum at age 60. Antonin Dvorak infused his symphonies and chamber music with the spirit of Bohemian folk song and dance. At the age of 16, he studied music in Prague. In 1892, he went to New York and spent almost 3 years as the director of the National Conservatory of Music. He had become interested in Native American melodies and African American spirituals. Johannes Brahms was born in Hamburg, Germany. He was a romantic who breathed new life into classical forms. During the day, he studied piano, music theory, and composition, and at night he played dance music in cafes, all when he was 13. He got to meet Liszt and Schumann was to shape the course of Brahms' artistic and personal life, while Liszt didn't do him any good. And later he introduced many forgotten masterpieces by Bach, Handel, and Mozart to the public. Brahms' music was all in the traditional form except opera. His known work is the German Requiem in 1868. His music embraces a range of moods, but particularly it has a mellow feeling and a sense of lyrical warmth. Brahms is known to make polyphonic textures sound natural and spontaneous. All of his music is rhythmically exciting, and the quality of his sound is usually rich, dark-toned colors.